Hello, how you doing? Today I'd like to talk about people that don't realise they've come from an abusive background, and perhaps aren't necessarily in an abusive environment or abusive relationship. Um, the reason of that is I was talking to a gentleman recently who I could just tell I can hear language, or you can hear language sometimes when you're aware of patterns repeating. And people in my profession in development will probably be aware and hear certain patterns in the language that you use. But I could hear that this gentleman had come from a background where things weren't quite in balance, and that had created a pattern where he was recreating that in his life, in his relationships, and it was kind of sad in a way, but interesting for him to hear the conversation and the things I was noticing, and just being able to pinpoint along the way about perhaps the reasons and the patterns that he was getting into. He'd gone through his adult life with relationships of two different types, two different opposites. One where he was either completely the dominant, and very arrogant, he said, almost to the point, well, yeah, to the point that he didn't care and he wasn't happy. So those were kind of throwaway relationships where the other person, the partner, was absolutely hanging on to his every word and giving of themselves very much. And on the other hand, the other side of his pattern was absolutely falling in love with a really inappropriate woman. I'm laughing, but not, it's laughing at the irony of it. Pardon me, not the person or the situation, but guy on this side absolutely falling for somebody who wouldn't reciprocate his love, who wouldn't give the balance that of emotion that he wanted to give. So it was just the diametric opposite of what he was doing here. He gave everything and they took everything and gave nothing back. So he was stuck between a rock and a hard place in a way, and so were his partners. Very interesting to realise. Necessarily doesn't necessarily help you until you see the patterns. When you see the patterns, it's like, oh yeah, and he was going like this. Okay, so where does it come from? And unsurprisingly, his environment was very gentle, his home environment, but it wasn't balanced in terms of his mum and his dad. So he created out of that there's a middle ground somewhere here that is very unusual to him. He's never found it. He's always been here or here. So how do you find that? I think you need to get your senses working, because if you don't, you'll just go down one or t'other route that you've normally gone down. So you'll either meet somebody that hangs on your every word, or you'll absolutely fall in love with somebody that won't reciprocate. That was his pattern. Everybody has a different pattern, of course, but I just thought it was interesting to share. It's not all about terrible situations and abusive situations. It can be very subtle, very just very subtle undercurrents that you don't even realise. Yet, if you look back, you see these patterns in your relationships, and you're not satisfied and you're not fulfilled. Why is that? So, for people that have are getting bored of their patterns in their relationships, maybe just look a little bit deeper, scratch under the surface, and think what would be a new position. And how can you create that? And for this gentleman, it was just a case of going, okay, so if I'm not bothered by that, but he could recognise, he gave them two different names, these two different characters, and for him that was useful because he could instantly recognise when one of the either pattern was happening once he thought about it. So he created a fictitious one in the middle. Has he met it yet? No. I don't know, actually. I haven't heard from him for a while. But his radar is now set to that. So it's just, I'm smiling because it's a fun game in a way. Certainly more fun than either that or that. So, yeah, sometimes it's just looking at the gentle and general patterns in your life, and recalibrating them consciously to create a new path, one where you're more fulfilled. That's all I'm going to say on this one. But there's all sorts of things going on out there, and I think it's great to share. And thank you very much for all the emails I'm getting. I am continuing to respond to everyone, but I hope this blog spreads the word further. So thank you very much. Do keep them coming. All right, many thanks. Bye bye.